So today I'm going to show you how to actively read and then fill out a sourcing chart. So Miss Beatty and I have created this sourcing chart in order to help you source documents. And like we said before, the reason to source documents is to make sure that they're reliable and make sure that the author is an authority on whatever you're researching or looking at. So this sourcing document right here is something, a worksheet that you're going to be working on. And I'm going to be giving you an example of how to fill this out with some active reading. And then you're going to do some practice of active reading and sourcing. So you can see example A here. This is going to be filled out on your worksheet. It's nice and orange for you to see. So we're going to go to document A, which is down here. And the first thing we're going to do is actively read document A and then come back to the, um, the table. Okay. So here's document A below. We do have these printed out for you too, just in case you wanted a printed version. But I do want you to get used to actively reading on the computer because most of your sources are going to come from the computer. No longer are we using a lot of books as historians. Now a lot of stuff is online. All right, so let's look at document A. Document A has Thomas Jefferson on it. Okay, that's the author. It's the first draft of the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, in 1776. So already we've got a lot of information here that was given to you. Sometimes sources won't have this information and you might have to go looking for it. Okay. So we do know if we looked up Thomas Jefferson. So say you looked it up on Wikipedia. So let's highlight this, right click, okay. Come down and press comment, okay? You can also comment here on the side, okay? But what I want to do too, because maybe I don't know who Thomas Jefferson is, I want to explore Thomas Jefferson. So that'll help us out to find out who the author is. So let's explore Thomas Jefferson. And on the side here, it tells us exactly who he is. Okay, Thomas Jefferson was an American statesman, diplomat, lawyer, architect, musician, philosopher. He's a lot of things, and founding father who served as third president. If you press Wikipedia, it's going to take you to what he actually did, and you can find out that he is one of the writers, probably basically the main writer of the Declaration of Independence. Okay. So now that we know that, we can make a comment here that Thomas Jefferson was one of the founding fathers of the United States, and he wrote the Declaration of Independence. And I'm going to comment here. Now I'm going to look at my active reading. What am I reading here? Well, the first thing I want to do is make sure that I understand, well, what's my motive? Why am I reading this document? So if I go back up here, I find that there is a question here that I'm trying to answer. And the question is why the Constitutional Convention of 1796? So the Constitution decided to include slavery in the Constitution. Why keep that there? So let's go back to with that in mind to document A. And it says King George has waged cruel war against human nature itself. Okay, so King George, if we have to look that up, we can right click again. You can explore again King George. It's going to tell you that King George was the king of Great Britain in 1776. And he was ruler of the colonies at this time. Okay. Now if I spelled Britain wrong. He has taken away the most sacred rights of life, liberty, and liberty from a distant people who never offended him. He did this by captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere if they did not die a miserable death in their transportation to this new world. These disgraceful practices are the warfare of the Christian king of Great Britain. So he's basically saying that um, the king, George, is the one who started slavery. Okay. So Thomas Jefferson, I'm going to put him as TJ. Now, if I was formally writing, I would not do that, but because I'm making notes, that's okay. Okay. TJ, he blames King George for slavery. And I have a thought here, though, and a question. Is he talking about African slaves? Or is he comparing African slavery to the colonists' situation? Okay, so it's a question that I'm just thinking right now. I don't have to answer it, but I'm putting it there to make sure that I understand my thoughts. Okay, he stopped every attempt to prohibit or restrain the disgusting business of slavery, and he is determined to keep an open market where men are bought and sold. So again, he's saying that this is a bad thing, right? He's saying here that he is definitely talking about the slave trade, right? And let's fix that spelling there. Okay. So when we come back up here, our author's first and last name will be Thomas Jefferson. Author authority, we know he's an authority figure because he wrote the Declaration of Independence. Just going to do that because it's a note. Published 1776. We know that it was Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Okay, and the summary of the text is King George III will continue slavery. And if you find out the author's perspective, the thought here is that Jefferson, notice I didn't say Thomas because he's not my friend, okay? I used the last name, okay? Jefferson compares slavery to the colonists' situation and does want slavery out of the Declaration of Independence. Sorry. Okay, why do you think this document was written or stated by the author? And my thoughts, and it's just my thoughts, this is a kind of an educated guess. I think that it was written because maybe Thomas Jefferson thought that slavery was not right and and the colonists would be seen as hypocrites. Hypocrites. And then that's how you would fill that out. If you have any questions, just ask me or Miss Beatty.